Welcome to the I Love Buffalo podcast. Part of the I Love Buffalo network with your host, Josh Catry.
Welcome, good neighbors, to the I Love Buffalo podcast. I'm your host, Josh Catry. If you're new here, a little bit about the podcast. We cover everything from Buffalo's news, business, sports, crime, politics, unsolved murders, corruption, jiu-jitsu, nature and the outdoors, entrepreneurship, and all things that champion the underdog city that we all love and the good people in it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today on the podcast, the Buffalo Bills finished the 2025 draft, and Brandon Beane fires back at critics. Buffalo Public Schools face cover-up allegations for crimes against children. A shout-out to the local healthcare workers. An intro to Q Anytime, an awesome new video social app being launched right here in Buffalo. And a book review about Western New York. All this and more on this episode of the I Love Buffalo podcast.
She's got 16 scars on a lily white face. There's a man in Reno who just vanished without a trace. There's an apple pie on the windowsill. The king is gone, but no, not the crown. Oh, not the
That right there was Buffalo's own The Albrights with a song called Pretty Flower. The Albrights were formed in 2009, and they are known for their blend of pop rock, blues, and Americana. As always, we like to highlight some Buffalo area music, and we'll be playing some more of their songs throughout this episode. In our first segment here, we are going to highlight the 2025 Buffalo Bills draft. And if I had to summarize it in one word, it would be defense. So we all saw the season last year. Buffalo Bills scored a lot of points, the most in Buffalo Bills history in any one season. And that should have been enough to get us far. We scored more than the Philadelphia Eagles. We scored more than any other team in football. And yet we fell short. And we couldn't get off the field. We couldn't get off the field on third downs. We couldn't get off the field when it counted on defense. And had we done just one or two extra times, maybe per game, that would have changed everything. It seems like Brandon Beane took that to notice, and he really focused on shoring up the defense through the draft. For our first round pick this year, we took a cornerback. So corner, which, that's the person that guards the receiver if you're not that familiar with football. They can guard either man-to-man, which is like I'm assigned to guarding that receiver, or they can do zone defense where the cornerbacks will have a zone that they're responsible for. Almost all defenses in the NFL at that high level do a blend. They do some zone, some man-to-man, with most defenses erring more on the side of zone defense rather than man-to-man. When you do man-to-man, you have to turn your back often to the quarterback, and things can happen that are very bad for the defense if you have a quarterback like Josh Allen. So Josh Allen is known for being able to carve up man-to-man defense, especially using his legs and running, things like this. So we decided to draft in the first round a very athletic cornerback. He was the fastest person to do the 40 time in the NFL Combine this year. And he's got a really high upside to him with a very high relative athletic score called an RAS score. And his name is Maxwell Hairston. He's from Kentucky. With him, you have a lot of versatility. He's very aggressive. He drives on the ball. He will intercept the ball quite often and make plays on the ball. And that's what our defense was known for last year, was the turnovers, which is good. But if it wasn't for the turnovers, we had a historically horrible defense. We really just couldn't get off the field. With a blazing fast 4.28 40-yard dash recorded at the Combine, he will definitely add some dynamic ability to our defense. And he was our first-round draft pick this year. In the second round, we went to the defensive line, which I thought was our weakest part of our entire defense. We saw what the Philadelphia Eagles could do with a good defensive line to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. The D-line matters. It gives the quarterback a lot less time to throw. It makes the quarterback sometimes shook or scared. Even Josh Allen has had games where there was good defensive lines getting after him And you could tell that he was not comfortable in the pocket because of these good defensive lines. So for our second round pick, at pick number 41, the Bills traded picks number 56 and 62 and 109 to the Chicago Bears in exchange for pick number 41, 72, and 240. So we flipped a bunch of picks around, but moved up in the second round. And we took TJ Sanders, defensive tackle out of South Carolina. He's a converted basketball player, and he's known for his quick first step and for his pass rushing ability. Keeping in mind that several players on the Buffalo defensive line are suspended for the first 5 or 6 games of the season for performance-enhancing drugs, this was a big pick that can fill the shoes of some of the players expected to miss early, and will play alongside Ed Oliver and the rest of the D-line, hopefully causing havoc on our opponents. Keeping with that theme, for pick number 72 in round 3, we took defensive end Landon Jackson. So Jackson tallied 16 sacks and 26.5 tackles for Arkansas during his collegiate career. He's got a high motor, so he's like very high motor, very versatile. He adds a lot of depth to the defensive line rotation. And if you guys have ever seen the TV show on HBO called Barry, Landon Jackson looks like the Chechen mob leader on the show Barry, named NoHo Hank, with the shaved head and no eyebrows. I actually think that Landon has alopecia or something like that. I think he mentioned it. But it's uncanny that they look alike, and it's kind of cool to have a defensive end who looks like a Chechen mob hitman. And so I'm sure Bills Mafia will have a lot of fun with that. In the later rounds, the Bills picked up a defensive tackle named Deion Walker, another cornerback that guards the receivers named Jordan Hancock, and he's out of Ohio State. Deion Walker was out of Kentucky. We took Jackson Hawes out of Georgia Tech. He's a tight end, one of the better blocking tight ends in the draft, maybe the best one, actually. We took another cornerback with pick 177 named Dorian Strong. We also took an offensive tackle and a wide receiver in the later rounds. So some of the local radio and TV personalities were critical of the Bills for not adding a receiver higher in the draft for this class. Now, I don't know if you ever heard Brandon Beane or Sean McDermott talk to the press before, but they're very calm and cool, and they hold their cards close to their vest, and they don't really say too much or get too animated. For lack of a better term, I think they're kind of vanilla, honestly. They don't like to give too much away about what they're feeling or anything like that. They're vague. They put the B in subtle, let's say. And on WGR 550's Jeremy and Joe show this morning, things got unusually spicy with Brandon Beane. He even used some PG-13 language while addressing criticisms about the Bills not drafting that wide receiver earlier in the draft. Kudos to Jeremy and Joe, who always faced the music professionally, and they did a great job navigating it. But let's be honest, this is talk radio, so they have to, of course, address all sides and concerns and questions and come at it from different angles. And I think Brandon Beane only heard the end of it, but it was still interesting to hear him get pretty spicy. So we're going to play a clip of that right here. This is from Brandon Beane on the Jeremy and Joe show on WGR 55. Let's listen to Brandon Beane get fired up.
Brandon, we had 2 draft parties, so we're kind of tired too. You know, we were up late with you in the first round and the second round. It's a busy weekend for you.
Yeah, no, it was. It was. I was just listening to the last few minutes of your show before I came on, waiting on here.
All right.
Sounds like 2018 all over with you guys.
Well, how so?
Well, you guys were bitching in 2018 about Josh Allen. You guys wanted Josh Rosen, and now you guys are bitching that we don't have a receiver. I don't get it. Like, we just scored. Hold on, let me talk. We just scored 30 points in a row for 8 straight games. A year ago, I get you guys asking why we didn't have receivers, but I don't understand it now. You just saw us lead the league in points when you add all the postseason. No one scored more points than the Buffalo Bills, including the Super Bowl champions. So you just saw us do it without Stephon Diggs, same group. How is this group not better than last year's group? Our job is to score points and win games. Where do we need to get better? Defense. We did that. So I get it. You got to have a show and you got to have something to bitch about. But bitching about wide receiver is one of the dumbest arguments I've heard.
Okay. I mean, I wish you'd listened to the 2 hours and 25 minutes before that, because there's plenty of things we do like about your draft, and I find it curious the energy you're coming at us with, but I mean that's your choice.
I get it. I'm just like, let's be realistic. Our job is not to have. It's not fantasy football, like to trot out the best receivers. You got Josh Allen. First thing you got to do is protect him. You can't have everything. You can't have Pro Bowl wide receivers and have a Pro Bowl offensive line and an All-Pro quarterback and 3 great running backs. Like you gotta pick. Sure, I'd love to play fantasy football, but there's one football, Jeremy. There's one ball. You can't give it to but so many people. So that's where I'm like, I don't understand this narrative. I felt it a little bit from a couple of the reporters and the thing. Like, our job is to score points. It doesn't matter what receivers, what quarterback, what. If you score points at the level we scored, that is winning football.
No doubt about it. Something that we've said quite a bit, 30 points per game, a good offense last year, an incredible offensive line, a good run game. You did lose 2 receivers and add 1. I mean, many out there thought you might add another one. I was going to save the receiver conversation till after we talk defense, but if you want to go there first, I mean, it's fine. I think you've got some nice pieces there. Keon Coleman hopefully can take a step forward, and Curtis Samuel, we saw his season get kind of cut short or whatever, off to a bad start due to injuries. So you definitely have some pieces there. When it comes to that position, one of the things that the draft does, Brandon, I think you see all these teams add all these things. And I know, like, the board falls how the board falls. The reason I finished up with Sale the way that I did was I see lots of teams that are kind of flush at that position, still adding a few more pieces. And one place that I don't think you would even dispute is it's a place to save money. I mean, from a market efficiency, the wide receiver position gets expensive, and adding in the draft is a place to get some cheap options. So that's part of the reason that I kind of focused on it a little bit, is just because it seems like it's smart business to maybe add some there.
Well, it could be, for sure. It's you want to do that anywhere, just like corner is as well, which we did that, or defensive line, defensive tackle in particular. So yeah,
Now, that was pretty spicy for some local radio, I think, anyways. You don't really hear the GM or coaches getting that worked up. And I got a feeling that Brandon Beane had been taking this line of questioning from several angles, maybe, or he kind of mentioned it. He alluded to the fact that he was talking to other reporters and they were alluding to it, and they kind of dumped on Jeremy a little bit hard there. But I like Jeremy. I've actually had conversations with him before about jiu-jitsu and things outside of the radio. And I thought he did a good job of kind of reeling that back in. I don't know if I would have handled it the same way. He had a good reason to ask questions like this. But in the end, I do agree with Brandon Beane's philosophy. You know, as a jiu-jitsu coach in jiu-jitsu, we always talk about addressing our weaknesses. Like, you look at your game and go, where am I the worst right now? Side control escapes, or finishing my chokes, or finishing from the position that I get there, my takedowns. Whatever your weaknesses are is what you need to address in the off season when you're not competing, by drilling and practicing. It's the same philosophy here, and this is what Brandon Beane is doing with the Bills. So overall, this wasn't a flashy draft, but I do think it addressed the real problems with the Bills. Personally, it leaves me very optimistic for the season. I'm very excited to see what happens when we can get the ball back a few extra times and get that ball into Josh Allen's hands. Defense also equates to offense. They're both super important. I guess we'll just have to stay tuned to the season to see how this all plays out.
That's a pretty flower in your backyard. She said, oh, thank you, sir. And she nodded to the guy. You gotta let me in, and I took off my hat. You can't be too careful, you know.
In our next segment, the Buffalo Public Schools are facing some serious allegations. And these allegations against the Buffalo School District are about crimes against children. So I'm not going to get into too much details here. I don't want to have to put everyone in warnings and say, hey, cover your ears, or if you're too sensitive, like, don't listen. But I saw this exploding all over social media in the last 24 hours. There was a guy named Richard High, who is a detective for the Buffalo Police Department. He was a guest recently on a YouTube podcast called the Unsubscribed Podcast. And like I said, this thing went totally viral. And he's saying that the Buffalo Public Schools and some parts of the police force are failing to report abuse on children. He's alleging that the BPS systematically failed to report incidents of child abuse and sexual assault among students. He's also saying that it's worse than that there's obstruction of investigations, and claims that the BPS officials influence school resource officers and refuse to comply with subpoenas, including not turning over video surveillance of the incidents and even deleting tape that suspiciously seems like they deleted tape. So during the podcast, he got pretty emotional. It was visibly emotional, and he was crying, basically talking about some of the people that got abused. This is the part I'm not going to dive into too deep here. I want to keep it a little bit on the lighter side, but I do want people to hear about this and be aware exactly what's going on. So the response from the Buffalo Public Schools where they denied it. They of course said that it didn't happen and this is unfortunate and untrue. And they're saying that his comments were not right. And some people are attacking his character a little bit online. I could see there was a bunch of big, long threads. But I mean, the guy worked for the FBI, worked for the Buffalo Special Victims Unit, and a bunch of other things. I don't know him personally, but it seems to me like he was being genuine. I don't know why you'd make something up like this. And he had several instances where he was basically saying this particular instance here. And then in the comments online, people knew what he was talking about. And some mothers were saying, hey, that's my kid. Or, hey, I had another incident where the videotape from the school district got deleted in an instance where my son claimed to be abused or daughter claimed to be abused. That seems suspicious to me. When there's parents openly calling it out online, saying that they were trying to press charges and dig into it deeper, and that evidence is missing, this is a huge red flag for me. There seems to be a lot of support for Detective High online, but then when you watch the mainstream media, it seems like some pressure is coming from the other direction to protect these systems that are in place. And this is just tragic to me in so many ways. To me, this isn't just about a few bad apples, right? That's what always it comes down to is like, oh, it's a few bad apples. It was Jeffrey Epstein or it was P. Diddy and they're bad apples. No, these systems are protecting those people. When you look on the big scale, you see how when you give it honest reflection, there's colluding power structures of media and government all protecting these abuses. And these power structures are willing to harm children and then protect the people who are doing it. And that, to me, is very alarming. And then when you dig into books like Whitney Webb's One Nation Under Blackmail and all these other kinds of things, you see really how corrupt our power structure systems are. And now you're seeing this happen, or allegedly happen, I should say, closer to home right here in Buffalo, where there are crimes against children being covered up. For what reason? Like, why is this happening? As I talk about here often on the podcast, I don't like labels. I think labels are a huge problem when we're trying to solve problems as one community or one people or one nation. Every label you add to an equation of group problem solving divides people, and that division stops us from solving problems. But this should be something we all agree on. There's a lot of things we should all agree on for some reason that politics divides us. We should all agree on health and wellness results. We should look at results and see what are our results. We should all agree on protecting the environment. Of course, the corrupt power structures are going to give us bad solutions to those problems, but we should at least agree that the environment and health and wellness are important to all people, right? Those are things we should agree on. And we should absolutely agree on not harming children and covering it up and using our systems to cover that up. And anyone who's standing in the way of that should be called out. And there should be a giant spotlight pointed at these people, whoever they are, if it's true. Maybe it's not true. Maybe Detective High is just making this all up. There's no way for me to know from where I sit. But what I will say is this. There should be total transparency here on what is going on, and parents should be relentless. If my kid was in that school, or if my kid was one of the kids that was allegedly abused, I would be relentless. These systems, we should not just let them be, right? We should be kind to people. Most people are good people. Talk about this a lot, but there's scientific evidence that shows most people in this world are good people. They want to do good. It's our systems that are bad. And when our systems are bad, it makes everything else around us bad. We need to be ruthless and relentless towards our systems. if this corruption has come to Buffalo on this kind of level, this deep, we need to really analyze what that means, right? The solution to fight a system that corrupt is very difficult. You ain't going to change it by voting. You're not going to change it by putting new criminals in office, new people that work for this kind of system, for a system that will harm children. That's not going to happen. Instead, what we should consider, I believe, is building new systems. We need a new place to go solve our collective problems together. That place used to be the media. That place used to be Congress. That place used to be the Senate. That place used to be academia. But most of those places have become either partially or totally corrupted. And with this kind of stuff going on, when we're covering up crimes against children, there has to be a bunch of people that say no. And we stand up and do something different. And the one thing different we could do is build our own systems. We don't need to use a government system. We can make a system 100% run and controlled by the people as a parallel system to their systems. Our systems have become fully corrupted. That's like having a computer that is fully corrupted with malware and a virus. And we're arguing about these programs that run on it. What we need to do is make a new system. And that system must be much, much harder to corrupt. It's not that hard to do. That's the thing. We can make new systems that are decentralized, transparent, where everything is on chain, where you can see it totally transparent. And we can solve group problems in a way that's different than the ones that were offered. We always are boasting about, oh, we need the right to vote. The right to vote is just a choice between two things. It's not the best way to solve problems in groups. It's testable. The best way to solve problems in groups that I know of is using collective intelligence systems or swarm intelligence systems, where you use creativity from the bottom up and you basically play like a game or a marketplace of ideas to see what answers the group likes the best. And then you use confidence scores, and it's dynamic. You could have a conversation with 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 people like they are one person, one interesting and awesome and creative being. That's the way you solve problems better in groups. And you can take any system that uses voting and put it up against another system that uses collective intelligence and have them both try to solve problems together. And the collective intelligence system is going to win 100 out of 100 times in a row. Whatever this is, whatever's going on in the Buffalo public school system is something we should unify against. We should unify against our corrupt systems, all of them. Doesn't matter what your labels are. Doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Doesn't matter if you're black or white or Hispanic or gay or straight or anything. We should all want the systems that govern over our lives to be free from corruption. And when that is the case, we can solve problems much, much better together. All the vitriol and hate that we see online doesn't exist in the real world when we all sit in a room and talk. And that's part of it. We don't have enough IRL, in real life meetups. And I want to strongly encourage that more and get out and talk to people and drop the labels. You know, if you're holding on to your labels too tight, it's a mistake. It's a mistake when we're trying to solve problems together. All right. That last segment was a little heavy and heated. And as you can tell, I get pretty emotionally worked up over bad systems that are hurting people that I care about or anyone. Even if I don't know you, our systems are our responsibility. They're not someone else's responsibility. They're our responsibility. And so I want to segment this into someone who is creating a new system, a beautiful system, something that I'm really, really interested in. And that system is called Q, the letter Q and the letter U, Q. It's a new startup here in Buffalo. I recently met the founder, David Coupland, and we immediately hit it off. One of the first things he said to me was, I want to change the world, Josh. And I don't hear that every day from people. So that really caught me off guard because I also have hopes of seeing the world change and want to be part of that. So when he said that, I was hooked. And I was like, David, I got to hear more about what you're doing. I met him at the Buffalo Open Coffee Club, and he showed me his app that he's been working on. It's called the Q Anytime app, and it launches in June. So again, that's QU Anytime app. And this is really cool. It's like the way he showed it to me, and I might get this a little bit wrong, but I think I have the gist of it. It's basically like you go almost like a social media platform. You have like your profile and you go on there. And then let's say you wanted to discuss with people around the world any topic. Let's say we wanted to talk about new systems of governance. Well, that could be like a topic on the Q Anytime app. And then people from all over the world, anyone who is also interested in that topic could join the queue. Then you get to connect to people and have a video conference set with those people about that topic. David describes his app as a platform and community that helps people grow through real-world experiences, creative challenges, and meaningful connections. Built around a philosophy of growth mindset, but David calls it the Q philosophy and adds more to it. And he has a lot of like little nuances here. But you guys know I talk about growth mindset a lot and the idea that our traits are not fixed and we can all grow as people. And this whole platform is like, okay, we're going to get in a little group online and talk to a bunch of people about some topic we all want to talk about. But the goal is to help everyone in the group grow their knowledge and understanding of the topic. David says that it's not just a social media, it's a social growth platform. That's kind of the words that he uses. David is from England and California, and he chose to move to Buffalo to launch his dream app here, which I think is also a really cool story. I'm going to let David tell this part of his story. He has his own podcast called the Q Podcast. So here's a clip from David on the Q Podcast from earlier today.
Initial instincts and my initial experience of Buffalo was only proven again and again and again over the last year and a half. And I love it so much. And truly, I think it's this amazing city with incredible infrastructure, incredible people, incredible creative community, incredible tech community, the desire to grow, the space to grow, the Buffalo Bills, so much beautiful nature and so many amazing businesses and things to do. And like as an individual who loves to learn and grow, like being in this city for a year and a half, I think I've learned and grown more in this time than I maybe have in any other period like this of my life. And I have a huge thanks to Buffalo for that, and everyone in this city. Because, I'm a dreamer and I have high aspirations and ambitions, and the energy at which people have got behind it in this city is humbling and overwhelming at times, but also just exciting and reassuring, I guess. One, that I'm on the right track, and two, that I picked the right place.
So that's David Coupland right there. And for sure, we'll be talking a lot more about Q and the launch as it approaches. And we'll be talking about the big party that David's going to have here in June to launch that event. Should be an awesome time. If you want to learn more about the app, you can go to Join Q, so joinqu.social, and check it out. It's coming soon.
Well, we ain't no New York City, and we ain't no New Orleans, but we got some leaky faucets in a sink that won't come clean. 'Cause I've been working in and out of high school, and I ain't got no degree, but I got my friends and family, and I don't worry about the economy.
In this next segment, I would like to take a moment just to honor and express my deep gratitude to all the local healthcare workers, especially here in our local Buffalo community. Recently, my father had knee replacement surgery, and he's a little bit older, and it was a tough time, and I have been the caregiver during his recovery, and it's been an eye-opening experience for me and given me a greater appreciation and respect for the work that you all do every day. I want to say thank you to everyone who has helped us so far, from the PT people in the hospital and all of that. Caring for someone else's comfort, healing, and well-being is no small thing. That's what I'm learning here. It takes a lot. It takes patience, it takes compassion and strength and dedication. And watching the nurses and physical therapists, doctors, aides, I realize just how much we have to trust and place that trust in your hands. And I just want to say a little thank you here on the podcast. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And thank you for your sacrifices and your dignity, your care, your humanity, and all of that. You guys are awesome. I appreciate and respect you very much. In our last segment here, I want to do a quick little book review. The title of the book is called A Celebration of Western New York, and it is written by Mark Donnelly, PhD, and friends. And there's a lot of photographs in here and things like that. So Mark Donnelly, I met at the Buffalo Open Coffee Club. And this past week, he came to the Quality Contacts meetup at Riverworks on Friday morning. It was a huge success, by the way. Thank you to everyone who came to that. Well over 100 people, business owners, decision makers, entrepreneurs, and people in the business world or who want to get in the business world that just wanted to meet some new contacts, exchange some business cards, talk about what's going on. It was great to see everyone. Mark was there, and he's one of my new friends. He's a local publisher and PhD. He worked on the original I Love New York campaign, and that holds a little piece in my heart, given the name of this podcast. And he gifted me the book, and I made him sign the inside of the cover, and it is packed with amazing and future podcast topics. So each chapter seems like a new podcast topic. There's history, a lot of history, the parks, festivals, sports, all kinds of cool stuff. And we'll be digging into this book over the next coming months in this podcast and digging into some of the chapters there. But Mark, thank you if you're listening. Huge thank you for your wisdom and for this great book. It means a lot to me, and I will honor that as well. For our featured business of the week, this is another business that I met at the Buffalo Open Coffee Club. I am covering what's called Hill Point Scanning, run by a woman named Emily Hill. She's really cool. I met her. She brought her 3D laser scanner to the meeting one time, and in the atrium of the Seneca One Tower, she scanned the whole thing in a matter of like seconds, and it showed up on the screen in a 3D architecture layout that you could use for building and, you know, digital replicas and things like this. So that's called Hill Point Scanning. If you have any use for creating digital replicas of any space you have for architecture, engineering, construction projects, facility management, anything like this, this will save you a ton of time and effort. Instead of paying an architect to come in and measure everything and lay it all out, you can use this 3D scanner that measures everything in a matter of seconds and gives you hyper accurate, realistic readings from this high-tech 3D camera thing that sits in the middle of the room and spins, basically, shoots lasers all over the place. And I think it's like millions of points or some crazy number that scans all over. So again, that's Emily Hill from Hill Point Scanning. She's our featured business of the week. Check her out for all your architecture needs. And as usual, we're going to wrap up the podcast today with the events and the awesome things happening in Buffalo, New York. So you know what to do the following week when you want to go out. You can't say there's nothing going on, because if you say that, you're just not paying attention. So events through the week of 5/5, we have Kleinhans Music Hall. On the 29th is Dweezil Zappa. On 5/2, we have Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra presents Raiders of the Lost Ark in concert. What a great soundtrack to that movie. And on the 4th of May, also at 7 o'clock, we have Wanda Sykes, the comedian, doing the Please and Thank You tour, also at Kleinhans. UB Center of the Arts on the 29th at 5 o'clock, Spring Intro to Art Showcase. It's free and it's open to the public. Shays 710 Theater. This is from 5/1 through 5/18. They got Legally Blonde rocking. The Kaz, the music venue in South Buffalo that you need to check out. On 5/2 and 5/3 at 8 o'clock, the Strictly Hip. And it's titled Hip Story at the Kaz. I actually don't know what that's about, but I'm really curious, so I'm going to look it up after this show. I probably should have got more notes on that. That sounds super interesting. Farmers Market season is kicking off on May 3rd, opening day for the East Aurora and Hamburg Farmers Markets. My wife is ecstatic about this. She is a farmers market groupie. KeyBank Center on 5/3 at 8 o'clock is Shane Gillis. This is sold out comedy show. Town Ballroom on 5/3 as well at 8 o'clock. The Emo Night Tour, 10-year anniversary. Hawk Creek Wildlife Center on 5/3 at 11 o'clock. We have Wild Earth Inspire Flying Bird Show. I think this is when they have the owls and the hawks and all that. Really cool, right up my alley. Buffalo Riverworks on 5/3 from 4 to 8 o'clock is Buffalo's biggest Kentucky Derby watch party. This is a lot of fun. Everyone comes in with their hats on and they drink their mint juleps and dress up and watch the races on the big screen. Total blast. I can get into a theme party almost about anything. On 5/4 at 2 o'clock at Riverworks is the 4th annual Buffalo Blues and Roots Festival. It's always a good time. Check that out last year. Buffalo Ironworks on 5/4 at 2:30 is the Buffalo Comedy Showcase. And Monday 5/5, of course, is Cinco de Mayo. This is the day of the year that me and my friends all circle on our calendar to go out smallmouth bass fishing on Lake Erie, because it's epic. We always catch monsters. Last year, I got my first legit 7-pound smallmouth bass on Cinco de Mayo with my man Hans the Carver, who he's the best guide on Lake Erie, multi-species if you're trying to go fishing on Lake Erie, or he's one of the best, I should say. There's a lot of really good guides, but he's amazing. And my friend Dan King. So shout out to you guys. I'll see you guys on Cinco de Mayo. And in closing here, remember, Buffalo, a rising tide raises all ships. Get your kids into jiu-jitsu and stop by the Buffalo Open Coffee Club, 7:30 a.m., Seneca One Tower, open to everyone every Tuesday morning. Leaving you this week with a clip about growth mindset. In the spirit of the new platform for Q, this is the brilliant woman, Carol Dweck, who wrote the book Mindset. And here's Carol talking about what growth mindset really means. Have a great week, everyone. Keep growing. Here's Carol Dweck.
The idea that we have a certain amount of ability, intelligence, and talent, that idea holds us back because when we don't succeed, we think, oh, I guess I don't have the ability, the talent, the intelligence to be successful at this. And that fixed mindset always comes out when you're vulnerable, when you're out of your comfort zone, when you have criticism or setbacks, or when someone else is really successful much more than you are. So what are you going to do about that? The first step is to listen to that fixed mindset voice, figure out the situations that trigger it, to say, no, we are going out of our comfort zone. Yes, we did have a setback, but that's a natural part of learning. Yes, that person is better than you are right now. Find out how they got that way and what you can learn from them.